This deal does seem to be hotting up, doesn't it? It seems to be one that apparently wants to be done this week. Tottenham are adamant that they want a new centre-back at the beginning of the window. The reports now of a deal being closed for around £27 million, albeit Tottenham apparently still locked in negotiations for Dragusin. It's a deal that definitely excites a lot of fans, given the massive need for a new centre-back. I'll go to Sean first on this. The deal for Todibo seems to be now dead in the water. Apparently they want too much money and Nice don't want to sell him. So do you reckon Dragusin is the next best thing? Do you think he is the one we should be going for in this first week of the window?
Yeah, well, of the ones we've been linked with, there's a few names out there that I'm big fans of. I like the fella COYS at Borussia Mönchengladbach as well. I've got some tuna fish on my jumper. Sorry.
That's all right.
Yeah, but listen, I think Dragusin is a brilliant centre back. If you're someone that that likes a defender to defend, then you're not going to go too far wrong with this guy. He's brilliant in the air. He's strong. He's a good positional sense from what I've seen of him. He's a good tackler. He's good at clearances. Everything about him to me screams brilliant defensive defender, like defensively minded defender. I have got a question mark or two about his passing. From what I see, obviously, I run him through the Y Scout tool and then just zone in a little bit on some of the areas of his game that stood out to me, good or bad. And I think that the passing for me is a little bit questionable at times, but that doesn't mean that he's not going to necessarily improve or fit into the Tottenham system better. But like I just think that Tottenham's high line, high press system, it does require slightly more from defenders than just being able to defend. It asks them to do some more on the ball. So if you had to pick one between Todibo and him, it would have been Todibo for me. But I'm very much on board with this signing. I'm very much excited about adding him into the mix. And he's bringing the crew back together from the Juventus days, right? Him and Decky and Bentancur are all old mates, so shouldn't have any real trouble settling in. So, it's a needs must situation as well. I'm very happy with it, very much on board with it. But there is one question mark, and that's his on the ball stuff for me.
Yeah, but given he's only 21 years of age, clearly he's been he's been growing very quickly, hasn't he? Last season he was spent. They were Genoa in Serie B, and he was playing obviously second division Italian football. This season, being in Serie A, he's really taken this season by storm, and he's having a fantastic first half of the season, and maybe he's showing an ability to be very adaptable very quickly to a new level of football. And maybe he's still 21. That's very young, especially for a centre back, isn't it? So. I think it's definitely a very exciting signing for you, Rez. I'll go to you on this one. How important is it that we get him in before the Burnley game on Friday, or is it just a case of as long as we got him maybe before Man United, that would be pretty acceptable?
In terms of a specific game, difficult to tell. Ultimately, look, we're coming up against Burnley. They're picked up their form a little bit, but they're still relatively, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, they're still relatively weak because they have a style of play that doesn't necessarily fit with the personnel that they've got. And so when it comes up against Premier League opposition, we've seen this season that they've had struggles. So in terms of getting Dragusin in before Burnley or after Burnley, yeah, can't really say. The key for me, though, is that the deal is done at the earliest opportunity. Okay, we're all look, we've got to be realistic. Okay, deals are not done immediately. This isn't Football Manager where you just click a button and it's done, right? But at the same time, we have notoriously shown that we will drag our feet. And we've got to get out of that mindset as a club. We have got to say, right, that's our target. We're going for it. And if there's a disagreement on price, we have to be a little bit more willing to meet the other party, part way. Maybe giving in a little earlier than we might so that deals are done. Because the transfer window is a month long. That is a month of the season. And it can hinge on that. You pick up 4 good results in a month because you brought in a player early, or you get 4 bad results in a month because you brought them in late, that can change a season. So it is a case of striking while the iron is hot. I would love to see Dragusin in before Burnley, but I would be more pleased by the fact that we got the deal done quickly rather than because he would be available for the Burnley game. Yeah, we do need a centre-back. It would be great if we had an actual centre-back to play against Burnley. But more important in the long term, more important for our long-term objectives, is to show that we are no longer going to be dragging deals out, you know, watching the news of the deal drag its sorry carcass across news now for a month. You know, get it done, get him in. If it's in time for a particular game, great, and if not, as early as possible.
Yeah, and it seems in this kind of situation, obviously, I think Todibo is probably the more ready-made centre-back, ready to come and basically make an impact immediately. But with reports, obviously, that they're now demanding about 60 million euros potentially, that is also a deal that maybe as well would probably drag out to the end of the window, with Nice not really looking to sell right now because they're in a title race. Do you think that's the best course of action for us right now? If Dragusin's ready to basically join early in the window, even though maybe he's more of a raw defender, he's a bit younger, maybe not has got as much game time under his belt than someone like a Todibo. Would you rather Tottenham just move on from that target if that looked like it was going to drag on up until the end? Or would you like to say, look, Todibo's the more ready-made one, I would rather wait for someone like Todibo than bring a Dragusin just because he's ready to come in now?
Weirdly, again, I think it works into the sort of the reputation that we have as a club of basically, you know, taking our time and sort of really wanting to hammer out deals. I think if we as a club show that if you're not willing to negotiate or you want to spend time negotiating, we will move on. I think that serves us better overall. Okay, we might not get as good a defender, let's say in this case, as good a centre-back as we could get into Debo if he is considered to be the upgrade. But no longer will other clubs look at Tottenham and say, oh, okay, well, you know, we know what Tottenham are like. They'll take their time, they'll look to things, and we can drag this out and maybe get a little bit more service out of Todibo. How you're viewed in the marketplace, I think, is something that needs to be worked on in any business. You know, this is an asset we want. If you're going to meet us halfway, show us that and we'll spend the time if necessary. If you're not going to spend the time, or if it's going to be a bit too complicated, forget it. Let's get players in. Let's get bodies in. Because even if, let's say, we miss out on, you know, like the #1 defender, as long as we get someone decent enough in, the key here is which is more important, getting the best defender that we can get right now, or sorry, getting the best defender that's possible to get, or getting the defender that we need right now. You know, we need to bolster our squad as a whole, right? Forget the injuries to Romero and Van de Ven. Even if they weren't injured, the key here is to bolster the squad. And that, I think, takes priority over a slight difference in ability between specific players.
Do you agree with that, Brian? Because, you know, one of the criticisms of Daniel Levy in the past has been maybe he's gone for, you know, maybe a lesser option because they're cheaper rather than, you know, pushing the boat out and getting that true #1 target. But in this case, you know, do you agree with Rez? It's more important to get someone in quickly rather than maybe the difference in quality potentially?
Well, all I will say is I made this mistake last summer with Raya and Vicario. Or went mad at Raya not knowing about Vicario, and look what happened here.
And potentially Van de Ven and Tapsoba as well.
There you go. There's that as well. Listen, I've said, and I've been very, very animated with this, the sign that Ange's being backed is getting players in early. And we desperately needed a defender. We had the 3rd worst defence in the calendar year last year. The Premier League last season was our worst defence in recent history. It was obvious we needed a centre-back, and Paratici has got his hands all over this one, and we know how successful he's been. this is a very, very good move for the club. I can't say I know both him and Todibo brilliantly to say I can compare and say which one was best. It seemed like Todibo was the #1 target, like Sean mentioned before. But it looks like we've gone for Dragusin, and the most important thing is we moved on, got it done, or it looks like we're just awaiting the 3 words. And we've got a centre-back that we desperately needed, and for the first time in a long time, we've got a deal done, potentially, within the first few days of the transfer window. So I don't know what more we can say of that the club's actually doing something good.
If this was the only early deal we were to do this month, and maybe if we did any other business, it was late in the window, would that be an acceptable situation for you?
I still, Joe, I still want some more done early. There's all right signing one. This isn't, oh, well done, you've got one in now, you've got a little bit of time that you can just muck about, or this should be the necessity. Anne just said he wants players in early. Don't just say, oh, we got you one, there you go, now just wait and see what we do. This should be what we do on a regular. Do what the manager wants, get players in early. We have this opportunity, and the great thing with this season is we have these 2 little mini breaks between this game and United, this game and Brentford, the perfect time to bring these players in and integrate with the squad, rather than coming at the end of the window and having to adapt and learn everything about the football club. So let's hope it's the first of a few.
Sean, when it comes to Dragusin, as we said, he's only really started properly, Serie A week in, week out this season. But he's obviously he's having a brilliant season, taken Serie A by storm by all accounts. Do you feel like that price that they're reporting, £25 million, do you feel that if we sign him at that price, we're potentially getting a defender who in a few years' time people will be looking at in a different light?
Yeah, look, I mean, personally, I completely agree with Rez's sentiment generally, but when it comes to the difference between Todibo and Dragusin, I think that it's more meaningful than a slight difference. I think the valuation differences for me, from what I've seen, are probably reasonable between the two. Like, I think Todibo is the real deal. The fact that he's keeping Saliba out of the French team, I was surprised when I saw that Nice were willing to accept 35 million euros for him. So I'm not surprised to read now that they want more like 50 million pound. When you compare, I don't know, the likes of him to someone like Anderson at Crystal Palace, or better, maybe a better example is his playing partner Mark Guehi, who the homegrown tax on Guehi is going to put him up to 50-60 million pound. And I think that Todibo, for me, has got a far higher ceiling than most of the young guys around Europe. And I think that the valuation that Nice are asking is reasonable. And Dragusin, for me, at 25 million quid, it is what it is, right? Like, I don't know what we're expecting Dragusin to be. Is he coming in to compete for the first team spot? Is he coming in under the kind of vision that when everyone's fit for the time being, obviously you're going to compete for your spot on the training ground and see what happens. But if everyone's fit and available, you're probably third choice right now. But given the fact that Romero misses, 40% of every season, either through suspension or injury, given the fact that Van de Ven is a player that relies on his pace and has just popped his hamstring for the first time, that's probably something that's going to reappear over the years. Then maybe the sales pitch is we're closing the gap on the drop off, but and we'll see what happens. Maybe you are the real deal. Maybe you are going to kick on and become something that's spectacular. And if so, then 25 million pound will be a snip. But I think 25 million is about the right price to pay for someone who is coming in as a rotation player when one of the first two is out. That's okay with me. If you're going to go and pay 50 million, 60 million for a Todibo, and you're also selling the same story, I think that's a difficult one to sell. So for me, I think that if you bring in a Todibo, then you really do have 3 players, that are of exactly the same, or if not a very, very small difference. Whereas I think with Dragusin, there probably is a little bit of a relative drop off, but nowhere near currently to Davies or to the others, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, and it's probably a similar story with Tapsoba as well. It's probably why we didn't probably go for big money centre backs in the summer. But do you feel with Dragusin there's a potential that we could be getting ahead of the game here? Maybe he's just about exploding now. Maybe we're getting a much better centre back than a lot of people think.
Yeah, and listen, I think, like I said at the start, for me, the takeaways are that if you're looking for a defender that can defend, and everyone, like, a defender's first responsibility should be to be able to defend, right? There's a lot of defenders out there that are good at doing things on the ball that aren't necessarily the best defensively. He's just the opposite for me. He's someone who can learn the role and the requirements of the new age version of a centre back, but he hasn't been asked to do that for Genoa. You know, he's playing in a back three with a low line, so. You know, you are like, I made the same comment about Lloyd Kelly. A lot of people didn't want Lloyd Kelly. It's an underwhelming signing if we did go after him, but he's a player whose physical attributes suits a team that will play a higher line. He's got the pace, he's got the mobility and stuff. And it would be the same, like, if you had just seen Mickey van der Ven playing in a low block team, you would never have seen the true version of Mickey van der Ven. Mickey van der Ven comes alive when in the higher line. Same, I think Lloyd Kelly might have been the same thing, and I hope that Radu Dragusin is also going to be someone that is going to thrive and flourish under this new model that we haven't seen from him yet. So to answer your question directly, I really hope that the 4 or 5 people that are involved in the scouting now, and they're bringing in the data, they're bringing in the analysis, all this stuff, the coaching, the scout, everything. I really hope that what they've done is identify a player who is worth 25 million for the standard he's at right now, but actually he's a player that they believe is going to transition and absolutely thrive in a different system, and then we'll find that this player is worth far more than 25 million quid in 18 months time, having played and shone in a system that allows his best attributes to be seen by the world.
And obviously he was brought, go on Rez.
I think this is the key issue, is that it does all depend on effective scouting of players, whatever form that takes. It's these areas that I think we've been a little bit hamstrung with in recent times. I think we've got to sort of think in terms of the holistic approach, and how, you know, scouting links in with the actual playing of the game, links in with the sports science of things, links in with the physio department, links with the medical department. It's all supposed to be done in the round. I'm going to make no specific indictments, but the perception that has come from the club has always been that we will look to shave every last coin that we can, almost just right down to the bare bones. And I think that can be a disservice. Ultimately, for me, I would like to believe that if we have identified, let's say, Todibo and identified Dragusin, they have both been adequately scouted to the point that we believe that they will contribute and fit into the current system of play. That is what you would hope from your Johan Langers, from Ange Postecoglou, from your scouting team, to say, this is what our principal coach does. This is how he sets his team up. In order to fill a particular position in that, you need this, and this attribute. Whether or not Dragusin necessarily plays in a system that matches that then becomes less relevant, because, as Sean said, if you saw Mickey van der Ven playing in a low block, you might not think, oh, well, he plays in a low block, that's not right for us. But he's got pace, he's got good control on the ball, he's got strength. Those things, if you can identify those, will fit. It all comes down to the focus of the club becoming, we are going to turn the playing side of things into something special. And that means a great first 11 and a bench to match it.
Yeah, completely agree. But to be fair, in terms of your point about the scouting and things like that, do you not? You say in recent times it's something that's maybe hamstrung us. But you do not think maybe in the past couple of years that's something that has been improving, and maybe we are starting to get right?
I think it's improving. I think Paratici has contributed to that quite a lot. You know, we've got players in that all seem to fit. At the same time, we've also brought in players that don't. And we've got a large number of loanees out there. Okay, they're young players. We've got a large number of loanees out there who don't seem to be taking any steps closer to the first team, be they academy products or youth prospects that we brought in from elsewhere. I still think there's room for improvement. And ultimately, as in anything football related, if you're not always improving on what you have, you're going backwards. I know it's a bit of a cliche, but fine, we might be getting better, but there's still more we can do. And it has to be that constant iteration, that almost Kaizen approach to how you run a football club. Always looking to become incrementally better at all times, not waiting for that big leap forward and then sitting on your laurels.
Yeah, I do agree with that. You know, just because we've been improving doesn't mean that that's good enough, and we should always be on your guard about what different ways we can improve. But I do like the direction we're going in. I do think, you know, for all the things we've been calling for are starting to be put in place, I hope, anyway, and there are signs that we are moving in the right direction. But for you, Brian, in terms of this Dragusin deal, obviously it's another one where Paratici was involved in bringing him to Juventus, and any deal that Paratici seems to have been involved in from Juve has seemed to have gone well so far. So does that give you even more confidence that this could be a good deal for us?
Well, let's just look at the the latest youngster that he brought in from Italy that hardly anyone knew in our left-back Destiny. This guy has got a huge eye for talent, of this age. And we go back to Pape Matar. He is just hitting bullseyes every single time. And look what, I didn't know a damn thing about Destiny. I don't know how many people did, but we are talking now about a beast and a very, very well-established Premier League left-back in his first half a season. If he has the impact that Destiny has had, we are onto an absolute winner. And you've just got to go back. I think if you look at Paratici's success rate, yeah, you can chuck Galini's and Hill's in that. And Hill may be a little bit questionable because we still haven't been given a real chance, but a huge majority of whatever Paratici has done has paid dividend and been an absolute tearaway success. And long may it continue. And hopefully, Dragusin is just the next one.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, obviously we need a big window with a lot of problems that we do have, a lot of improvements that we need in the squad, you know, in certain positions, maybe up front as well. But I think it would be a brilliant start to the window, wouldn't it, if we were to get a centre-back through the door, which is so desperately needed. I think it's one of the big problems we've had in our, you know, recent performances, just that lack of a recognised centre-back, and it's definitely prevented. Well, obviously we haven't been getting results, but in a lot of the games where maybe it's been in the balance, I think that lack of centre-back has definitely been hurting us.